chose 3 books here at the library out of random. Poisons from Hemlock to Botox, and The Killer Bean of Calabar, Peter McCannis. This is nonfiction. Also chose The Search for Infinity, Solving in Mysteries of the Universe, and The Encyclopedia of Typhoons and Cyclones. Starting with poisons. Researching forces of nature. Poisons, soup, poison, poison and food, the science of poison, poison and medicine, chest, cosmetic and domestic poisons, poisoned workplaces, poisoned politics, poison and war. So where shall I start? The science of poison. Page 64. Yay, science. Science of poison. One day, Caligula sent a colonial to kill young Tiberius without warning, on the pretext that Tiberius had insulted him by talking an antidote against poison. His breath smelled of it. Suetonius, the 12 Caesars. In any place where poisoning is common or believed to be common, there will be a strong motivation to study poison. Where some work in secret to discover poisons, others will seek and claim to find ways to counteracting them. So Rome had a flourishing trade in poison cures, some more effective than others. When Cleopatra poisoned herself by clasping an asp in her breast, Octavian, better known as to us by his later imperial name, Augustus, felt deprived of the centerpiece of his triumphal procession back in Rome, and called in Pislin snake charmers to suck the poison from her wound. But there would be no shameful display for the Queen of the Nile, who has reputed to be no mean poisoner herself. I love the ancient foods of Egypt, foods of the gods. Would never eat them, however, rather see them displayed. Ancient poison and a major problem in the search to detect and identify individual poisons. Alfred Taylor described 3 cases of poisoning from nitrate of octane. The first victim was given this preparation as a treatment for chronic bronchitis. The second, who survived, was given a prescription by the same doctor. And the third, who was the doctor in the case, a Dr. Mayer, who also took what should have been a safe dose and died. It turned out later that the dispenser had used a supply from Paris rather than the regular German solution known as Friedlander's nitrate of octane. Can't pronounce it. The Persian tincture The Parison tincture was 170 times as strong, something that could only be shown by systematic tests and experimentation. Poisons have always held just as much fascination for scientists as they have for the lay public. There seems to be a special sense of achievement to be gained from overcoming the secret power of poison, perhaps even more than in becoming a master of the implication of the power. Scientific advances have led to a common assumption today that given a poisoning, medical staff need mere to reach for the appropriate antidote and apply it, and the case is solved. The more unpalatable truth is that most poisons lack an antidote, although there are treatments available for some sort of poisons. Evolution plays many excellent tricks with poisons, many because there are so many easy targets in the biosphere, and almost every poison has a unique way of wreaking havoc on our cells. A living cell is far more than the docile bag of uniformly diluted soup with a nucleus in the middle we see in most textbooks. Each cell is teeming commonwealth of chemical bits and pieces packed with molecular citizens, some of them bustling porters hauling needed material from A to B, some of them cunning artisans accepting the porter's raw materials and fashioning complex molecules from the bits according to simple plans laid out, and yet other molecules that are passed to them. The molecules that make up the cell dance around each other, signal and interact with each other and cooperate in a myriad ways. Even the membrane, sealing off one cellular city-state from its surroundings as far more than a simple bag, because on the cell's perimeter, molecular guardians and gatekeepers watch their surroundings. They challenge some approaching molecules to prove their worthiness to enter, with others are recognized and dragged roughly inside, because there is a need for them. Some chemical guards communicate with the interior to find out what is needed. Others either allow appropriate molecules, messengers, free passage out of the cell, or speed unwanted chemicals on their way. The cell is a coalition of chemicals working as one to maintain what we call life. Within the cell, most cells are part of a larger nation, and each cellular city-state stands ready to any stage to pull the plug on itself by releasing the poisons it holds ready. And what is trigger for this release? Usually it comes from chemicals inside or outside the cell. Rogue molecules that mug the citizens, such as enemies block the gateways, others force their way in and attack the artisans and the porters. In short, the triggers are the things we call poisons. A healthy cell lives a poison-free life, but when there is a need, it will end its life in withering fire and counterfire of poison. There exists only a few genuine antidotes, chemicals that take a stronger grip on the poison than the body can, either by locking it up or keeping it away from our cells. in much the way that a minor poison, ethanol, is a treatment for diethylglycol. Atropine is good for the carbamate and organophosphorate. In insecticides, vitamin K is good for anticoagulants such as a morphine rat poison, while vinegar or acetic acid counteracts 1080 of sodium fluoractate. Arsenic and few other compounds are limited by British anti-leucite. Thersfalt, thersfate, and nitrate itself poison are antidotes for cyanide, with methylene blue counteracts the poison effects of nitrate, but that is about the extent of it. Antidotes are rare indeed. Acids and alkalis may be neutralized, but most other treatments are designed either to purge the body by cleaning the poison from the alimentary canal or occasionally to absorb it. Brooding house keepers in colonial Australia were in the habit of adding charcoal to the salt charcoal to the salt meat if they suspected it was off, in hope the charcoal would take up the smell. If their poor residents became ill, the doctor at the hospital would probably dose them with charcoal biscuits, in hopes that these would absorb the poison. Burnt toast, in effect, activated charcoal, as is still used in some poison cases. And that aside, a dream of antidotes and universal antidotes, as mainly mythology, a myth A.E. Houseman tells best. There was a king reigned in the east. There, when king will sit to feast, they get their fill before they think. With poisoned meat, a poisoned drink, he gathered all the springs to birth from the many venomed earth. First a little, thence to more, he sampled all her killing store, and easy smiling seasoned sound saith the king. The health went round. They put arsenic in his meat, and stared aghast to watch him eat. They poured strychnine in his cup, and shook to see him drink it up. They stared as white's their shirt. Them it was their poison hurt. I tell the tale I heard told. Mithridates, he died old. A.E. Houseman, a Shropshire lad. The real Mithridates was king of Pontus in Asia Minor, the place where the bees made poison honey. See chapter 10. He lived from 114 to 63 BC, and even in death, his story held a special fascination for the Romans, especially Pliny. It seems he tried out various poisons uncommon uncondemned criminals, and he also tested antidotes on the poisons by administering the alleged antidotes either before or immediately after the victims were given the poisons. Just as Houseman tells us, he also took small doses of poisons each day to make himself immune. The formula for his treatment was known as Mithridatum, and he guarded his secret jealously until Pompey invaded Pontus and took it back to Rome. Pliny's recipe for Mithridatum listed some 54 poisons, including one he described as the blood of the duck, found in a certain district of Pontus, which was supposed to live on poisonous food, and the blood of this duck was afterwards used in preparation of the Mithridatum, because it fed on poisonous plants and suffered no harm. The high point of Mithridates legend for the Romans was that during Pompey's invasion, Mithridates attempted to commit suicide by poison. The poison failed, perhaps due to this antidote, so they say he made his bodyguard stab him to death. Mithridates was following in the scientific footsteps of Nicator of Colophon, who lived somewhere around 185 through 135 BC and was physician to Attalus, king of Bithynia. Nicander also experimented with poison on common condemned criminals. From these experiments, Nicander wrote 2 volumes, Theorica and Alexipharimica, on antidotes to poisonous reptiles and poisons, respectively: Cereus, Litharge, Octane, Cantharides, hemlock, henbane, and opium were among the 22 he listed. Oddly, Nicander's Theoretic literary, something to do with wild beasts and venomous reptiles, is a word we still use today, though its use has mutated and it no longer means snake repeller, beginning with straightforward theriacs, like the theriac of Andromachus. Over time, different cities developed their own special formulations. Not that theriacs were needed everywhere. The Venerable Bede lived after St. Patrick and mentions Ireland's lack of snakes, without invoking Ireland's patron as the cause. No reptiles are found there, and no snake can live there, for though often carried thirth out of Britain, as soon as the ship comes near the shore and scent of the air reaches them, they die. On the contrary, almost all things in the island are good against poison. In short, we have known that when some persons have been bitten by serpents, these scrapings of leaves of books that were brought out of Ireland, being put into water and given them to drink, have immediately expelled the spreading poison and assuage the swelling. By 80 BC, one Pyrrhus offered a theriac named ambrosia. It was said to include frankincense, gabalium, pepper, and the other aromatic substances, all incorporated into boiled honey as a sort of lasagna, and to be swallowed with wine. Lausanne? I can't pronounce it. After that, theriacs seemed generally to have been sweet and thick, and by 1440, the addictive theoretical was in use. The London Pharmacopoeia of 1746 has a formula for a theriac first made in Italy and now called Venice triacle, with over 70 ingredients including dried vipers, roses, licorice, spikenard, myrrh, horehound, pepper. Valerian, gentian, St. John's wort, germander, gallabum, and 75% honey. By the end of the 18th century, theriacs were just all-purpose medicines given for all of the poisons caused disease until the germ theory was established. Every disease was by definition caused by a poison of some sort and had to be treated with an antidote and lots of purging. If doctors and scientists could not find antidotes or cures for criminally infected poisons, they might prevent some deaths just by showing they could detect poisons. When in tiny doses, this set up a sort of arms race, with the poisoners seeking out new poisons with as little taste as possible, or... Okay. Until next time. Time for our Productions Copyright 2001.